The wedding hall glowed softly, golden lights reflecting off chandeliers. White roses and lilies lined the aisle, their fragrance filling the air, while gentle music whispered promises of love. Everything looked perfect. She appeared at the end of the aisle, her dress flowing gracefully. Her hands held the bouquet lightly, and her calm smile hid the storm behind her eyes. Each step was measured, carrying months of hidden truths that were about to surface. At the altar, he waited, smiling confidently, completely unaware that his carefully built illusion was about to crumble. The officiant began speaking, welcoming everyone and speaking of love and trust. Then she stopped, looking straight at him, calm but piercing. She asked in a voice that silenced the room, "Do you really want to say these vows, knowing the truth?" The hall froze. Cameras paused. Guests held their breath. The perfect wedding had stopped, and the real story was about to begin. It didn't start with a dramatic revelation. At first, it was subtle, a late reply to a message, a hurried excuse, a shadow of tension in conversations that she brushed off as stress. Small things, easily ignored. But as days turned into weeks, she began to notice a pattern, a quiet unease that refused to go away. Then came the evidence she could no longer ignore. Messages he thought she'd never see, photos carefully hidden, conversations deleted but not erased completely. Each discovery cut deeper than the last, revealing a side of him she had never imagined. The betrayal wasn't just an act, it was a life he had built in parallel, smiling at everyone while deceiving her. Shock first, then anger, then sadness, emotions crashing over her like waves. Tears came, but they were quickly replaced with determination. She realized she couldn't stay silent. Hiding the truth would only let him continue unchecked. And so, a plan began to take shape in her mind. Not revenge for the sake of destruction, but a careful, deliberate way to expose the lies, to bring light to the secrets he thought were safe, and to reclaim her life in front of everyone who believed in the perfect story. The morning of the wedding felt strangely quiet. The sky was clear, the air soft, and everything around her looked peaceful. But inside her, there was a storm, steady, controlled, but powerful. She had made her decision. Today would not be a day of pretending. Today, truth would finally speak. As she got dressed, the makeup artist complimented her calmness. "You look so peaceful," she said, smiling. The bride returned the smile, but inside, she felt the weight of what she was about to do. Every brushstroke, every pin in her hair, every detail of her dress reminded her that she was walking toward a moment that would change many lives. Guests began to arrive, unaware of the tension beneath her quiet exterior. They laughed, took photos, praised the decorations, and admired the couple. Everyone believed they were about to witness a perfect love story. No one imagined the truth waiting beneath her calm smile. She held her phone tightly, the device that carried months of secrets he thought were deleted forever. Messages, photos, and late-night conversations that exposed his double life. She had replayed everything in her mind 1,000 times, preparing herself for the moment she would reveal it all. The groom stood near the altar, greeting friends, confidently smiling. He didn't see her, watching him from a distance, studying his every move. For a moment, she felt a strange sadness, how easily he could laugh, knowing what he had done. But that sadness slowly hardened into resolve. When the music finally began and she stepped into the hall, she felt strangely steady. Each step echoed like a countdown. The guests rose to their feet, admiring her beauty, unaware of the truth she carried. She wasn't nervous anymore. She was ready. Ready to speak. Ready to expose. Ready to end the illusion he had built so confidently. And as she walked closer to the altar, the calmness in her eyes wasn't peace. It was purpose. When the final truth unfolded, everything became clearer than ever before. What once seemed like confusion, doubt, and emotional noise suddenly turned into a straight, undeniable reality. Every moment, every action, and every silence now made perfect sense. The signs that were ignored, the words that felt incomplete, and the behaviors that once felt strange, each one connected like pieces of a puzzle, revealing the truth that had been hidden for so long. This moment of confirmation wasn't just about exposing someone's lies. It was about finally understanding what the heart had been trying to say all along. Sometimes truth arrives quietly, sometimes painfully, but when it stands in front of you, it leaves no space for excuses or illusions. The truth demands acceptance, and at this point, acceptance becomes the only option. With everything now out in the open, the situation transformed. What once looked like love became manipulation. What once felt like loyalty turned out to be betrayal. Yet, this confirmation also brought a strange peace, because knowing the truth, no matter how heavy it feels, is always better than living in uncertainty. Now, there was no need for questions, no need to search for hidden meanings, and no need to doubt oneself anymore. The truth had spoken clearly, and the decision could finally be made with strength instead of fear. This was the turning point, the moment where the past stopped controlling the present. The confirmation didn't just expose what went wrong, it empowered the narrator to step forward with confidence. And sometimes, that's all a person needs. One undeniable moment that changes everything forever. The wedding hall glowed like a dream, soft golden lights draped across the ceiling. Thousands of tiny bulbs twinkling like stars. Fresh white flowers lined the aisle, their scent mixing with the gentle notes of the violin playing in the background. Guests whispered in admiration, cameras ready, believing they were about to witness a perfect celebration of love. Everything looked beautiful, almost too perfect, as if the hall itself was unaware of the storm quietly building beneath the surface. The bride took her first step down the aisle. Her face looked calm, serene even, but deep inside, tension tightened her chest. Each step echoed with memories, messages she shouldn't have seen, secrets she never expected, and a truth she could no longer ignore. She held her bouquet tightly, not for beauty, but for strength. Yet her eyes were steady, focused, determined. At the end of the aisle, the groom stood tall, confident, smiling as if nothing in the world could go wrong. He greeted her with an expression full of pride, completely unaware of the truth she carried with her. To him, this moment was the beginning of a new life. To her, it was the final chapter of a lie. The officiant cleared his throat, opening the ceremony with a warm, practiced tone. Guests leaned in as the vows began, the promises of loyalty, love, and honesty. The groom prepared to speak, ready to recite the words he had rehearsed. But before he could begin, the bride slightly lifted her chin, her calm voice slicing through the hall like a quiet blade. "Before you say these vows," she said, her gaze locked onto his, "tell me, do you really want to say them, knowing the truth?" Silence fell instantly, and the real story began. The moment the bride's question echoed through the hall, everything stopped. The music faded mid-note, the murmurs died instantly, and for a heartbeat, even the lights felt frozen. The wedding, once glowing, warm, full of celebration, now hung in absolute silence. Guests reacted in their own ways. Some gasped loudly, hands covering their mouths in disbelief. Others exchanged confused glances, whispering hurriedly as they tried to understand what had just happened. A few relatives stood up from their seats, shocked and embarrassed, as though the truth had personally struck them. The older guests looked away, uncomfortable, while the younger ones leaned forward, unable to look anywhere else. Cameras that once captured smiles were now recording the collapse of a lie. The bride didn't wait for the chaos to settle. She gently handed her bouquet to a nearby chair, turned, and took a slow, steady breath. Her steps were calm as she walked back down the same aisle she had entered only minutes ago, this time not as someone pretending to start a new life, but as someone freeing herself from a trap. Every step felt lighter, as if each movement shed the weight she had carried for months. Behind her, the groom stood frozen, speechless, pale, and exposed. The confidence he wore like armor had shattered. His perfect image, the ideal husband-to-be, the smiling gentleman, all of it collapsed in front of everyone he wanted to impress. He opened his mouth to speak, to defend himself, to explain something, anything, but no words came out. His silence said more than any confession could. As the bride reached the exit, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The truth had been spoken, the illusion broken. What remained was her freedom, quiet, steady, and finally hers. And with that, she stepped into a new chapter, leaving the ruins of the betrayal behind. In the end, Betrayal always hurts more than anyone on the outside can understand. It doesn't just break trust. It shakes your sense of self, your confidence, your dreams. But the bride's courage showed something powerful. When you stop running from the truth and finally face it, you become stronger than the betrayal itself. Truth may be painful, but it never leaves you empty. It gives you clarity, direction, and the strength to rebuild your life on your own terms. Like the video and subscribe my channel. What she chose that day wasn't revenge. It wasn't about humiliating someone or proving she was right. It was about justice, the kind that comes from honesty and courage, not anger. Justice isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It's steady. It comes from standing your ground and refusing to accept anything less than respect. As she walked out of that hall, she carried no bitterness, only dignity. Because sometimes, the most powerful victory is simply choosing yourself over someone who didn't value you. And sometimes the strongest people are those who walk away, even when staying might look easier. The final lesson is simple but deep. Trust is precious, and once it breaks, healing begins with self-respect. Pain from betrayal doesn't define you, your response to it does. And when you choose truth, courage, and dignity, you don't just survive, you rise. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more.